Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Full-time hunter. Pok É Mon Master, the strongest in the world, unexpectedly venturing into the world of full-time hunters. Link discovered that he was an extremely rare innate psychic. Having the ability to read Pok É Mon Master, one only needs to travel or participate in a certain event to automatically conceive a Pok É Mon. As he arrived at each place, his Pok É Mon team also grew even larger. The supernatural empress, with beauty and strength coexisting. Chanadu Gung, the purple fat man, who can devour all evil. There are countless quasi-divine Pok É Mon in existence. Unconsciously, Link has become the strongest in many fields around the world. Standing in front of you now is the world's strongest anti-minder, the strongest building owner of the Sky Arena, a 3-star hunter in the fields of relics, food, and bounty, and one of the world's 5 minders. Link. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. I'm laughing at you for not having a big enough pattern. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. In a casino located in a town in the central part of the continent of Eulubian, within the territory of the United States of Suherda. 7 o'clock, Soha. The quiet casino is like a bomb with a detonating core, emitting a roaring noise. Me too. Whoever squeezes me, make way for me, I also want to go. Unlike the excited and flushed faces of the gamblers around him, Link calmly looked at the dice on the table. For others, this is a probabilistic question, but for him, the outcome has already been decided. The Lotus official with a beautiful face tightly grasped the dice goo, and the light dice goo seemed to have a weight of 1,000 pounds at this moment, making it impossible for her to open. I saw all kinds of chips piled up on the table, representing the 7 o'clock mark, even forming a small hill. The Dutch official knows that his career is coming to an end. No, maybe it would be even worse. After all, I work at this casino and it belongs to a gang. With such a big loss happening now, I estimate my life will be in danger. Thinking of this, the Dutch official stared at the indifferent Link, her eyes gradually turning red. She didn't understand why such a thing happened. The handsome young man in front of him has won 8 consecutive sets, even guessing points instead of size in each set. She couldn't figure out how small the probability was. All she knew was that at her own level, she couldn't tell if Link had cheated. Link doesn't care, let the Dutch official procrastinate here. Someone is not doing it anymore. What are you doing? Hurry up and open it, I'm still waiting to get the money. Seeing the Dutch official refusing to announce the result for a long time, the gamblers on the side began to curse and force her to open it. Many people have rolled up their sleeves and seem ready to use force to threaten. At this moment, a voice came from behind the crowd, that's all for the casino today, drop off. Looking back at the sound, I saw a middle-aged man with a big belly standing in the middle, with several sturdy men in suits guarding on both sides. The middle-aged man had a stubble on his face and was still holding a cigar in his mouth. At first glance, he looked like Kappenberg from One Piece. The newcomer is the notorious gang leader of this town. Pierce. Seeing the owner behind the casino show up, some people plan to stop as soon as it's good, but more are greedy individuals blindfolded by money. In their eyes, this was an opportunity they would never encounter in their lifetime, and they refused to leave like this. Until they saw the guards pulling out handguns from their arms. The gamblers who had just turned from cannibalistic wolves to docile sheep, with a fierce expression on their faces, dared not even say a harsh word when they left in a gloomy manner. The originally bustling casino was driven away by guards, leaving only Dutch officials and Link stuck in place. Seeing the boss take action, the Dutch official breathed a sigh of relief. His delicate face hesitated slightly, and he swallowed his saliva before slowly opening the dice and goo. 1, 3, 3. 7 o'clock. At the same time, Pierce arrived at Link's side with his guards, clenched his fists, and made a clicking sound from his hair. With a grim smile on his face, he said. "Young man, are you brave enough to cause trouble in my casino?" As Pierce spoke, he gestured for the dealer on the other side of the gambling table to step down. "So you don't want to give this money today?" Link raised his eyebrows and pointed to the pile of chips on the table. "Haha, why do you still want money? Not only do you keep the money today, but you also have to keep your head for me." After speaking, the gang guards on both sides surrounded Link and raised their pistols at him. Watching the pitch-black guns aimed at each other, Pierce did not see the expected panic on Link's face. "You kid. What are you laughing at?" Link looked at Pierce with a disdainful smile on his sharply defined face. "Me. I'm laughing at you for not having a big enough pattern, but it's just this little 1,000,000 ring none. Can't you help it? Since you don't follow the rules, then I don't need to be lenient, right, Xanadu?" "What Xanadu?" Pierce's eyes flashed with a hint of confusion, and the bean-shaped eyes covered in fat were even more comical. In an instant, pink chants that no one else could see rushed towards the guards, centered around Link. The guards who were still alive in the previous second will fall to the ground in the next second. There was no breath at all, strands of bright red blood flowed out of the 5 orifices, and my mouth was wide open, rolling my eyes. Several burly and powerful bodies collapsed on the ground as if their spine had been pulled away, causing the ground to shake and stir up waves of dust. "Ah! Monster! Monster!" Seeing the scene before him, Pierce quickly stepped back, muttering words like "monster" in his mouth. In the midst of panic, the fat and heavy body struggled to maintain balance and fell heavily, causing layers of fat on its face to tremble. This fall completely sobered him up. He can be considered a person to some extent, and he has heard some rumors. It seems that he has encountered those people who cannot be easily provoked. "Now, can I still take these money?" Link's frivolous words were like a demon's whisper in Pierce's ear. "Yes, yes. Sir, you can take as much as you want, just let me go." Pierce knelt down to the ground with tears and a runny nose, pleading with Link. He doesn't want to die yet. He hasn't enjoyed enough yet. The richer a person is, the more afraid they are of death. "Oh, can you take as much as you want? Then give me all the money you have here." Upon hearing this, Pierce's face stiffened, and his little abacus in his heart couldn't help but start moving. "By the way, if you want to live without one gene, don't question my ability to distinguish." Link looked playfully at Pierce, whose face was full of fear. The plot of this kind of hunter-prey reversal is really enjoyable, no wonder so many people like to pretend to be pigs and eat tigers. A few minutes later, Pierce arrived at Link with 2 large boxes of money, his face filled with a deathly gray color, as if he had lost his parents. "There's one more thing, how soon can you get me an ID card?" Identity documents are still quite important in the world of full-time hunters, such as using airships and other transportation, as well as applying for hunter exams. At the moment, this tool person can help me get things done. 1. About a week. Link stared at Pierce, who was sweating profusely and didn't dare to breathe at all, and smiled for a long time. "Okay, I'll give you this week's time. During this time, I'll stay at the neighboring hotel. Please let me know when it's ready." Chapter 2. Pok É Mon Master, 2/6, Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon arriving at the hotel room, Link collapsed onto the bed and chose the most luxurious room. The interior was decorated brilliantly and the bed was incredibly comfortable. Looking sideways at the 2 large boxes of money on the side, Link still couldn't believe it all. "Not long ago, I stayed at home, reliving full-time hunter anime while playing Pokemon games. Who would have thought that he would come to this world with his eyes closed and opened?" After some understanding, Link finally determined that he had come to the world of full-time hunters. It should be a good thing to travel to the world of anime you like, but this is the world of full-time hunters. Having seen full-time hunters, Link naturally understands what kind of world this is, which can be described as a world of the fittest, and can be considered a high-risk world. In this world, only strength is everything. Monsters, treasures, secrets, magical realms, secret realms. These may sound charming, but only with enough strength can one enjoy them. In this world, without strength, one can only be like an ant, and their own destiny is completely controlled by others. For example, the A-level criminal Phantom Brigade has killed countless people, but they can still get away with it. There is no obvious white or black in this world, like a delicate gray. No matter what your background is, whether you do good or bad, as long as you have enough strength, you can live freely in this world. For example, the famous family that beats enemies is the world's #1 killer family. Why does no one dare to attack them? Not because of their strength. At first, I was complaining that I was still playing Pokémon games. Why didn't I wear it in the Pokémon world? That's also good. Now it's okay, crossing into this unpredictable world, I don't even know if my own life can be guaranteed. Perhaps one day, a passing psychic will lose his life if he doesn't like him. Not to mention that this world is full of various bizarre creatures and disasters. Without some ability, it is very possible to be infected with inexplicable bacteria and viruses one day and die directly. Link felt only fortunate that he did not descend into Meteor Street, but rather in a small alley in an ordinary town. According to incomplete statistics, 8 out of 10 fan novels by full-time hunters have protagonists landing on Meteor Street after calming down. A message came into my consciousness, and then I stopped complaining. Reading ability. Pok É Mon Master 1. Gain. Every time you visit a region or participate in an event, there is a possibility of triggering the opportunity to conceive a Pokémon. The greater the fame and uniqueness of a place, the higher the probability, and the stronger the Pokémon it creates. If you participate in the original plot, you may increase the probability of obtaining Pokémon. Each Pokémon is an independent individual. Although its essence is composed of thoughts, it cannot be obtained repeatedly and disappears upon death. Limitation. It takes time to conceive a Pokémon, and the time required to conceive a Pokémon is random. Generally speaking, the stronger the Pokémon, the longer it takes. 2. Cultivation. Pokémon can gain experience points through battles, and when the experience points bar is full, they can be promoted to the next stage. The stronger the enemy, the higher their experience value. Some special Pokémon have other ways to advance. If multiple Pokémon play together, the experience points will be evenly distributed. Limitation. Each enemy can only gain experience points once, and there will be no experience points when fighting again. 3. Illustrated book. It can recognize any information about things, including Pokémon. The more mysterious things are, the less information can be obtained. Due to being in different worlds, Pokémon may experience certain changes in skill effects. Limitation. In addition to viewing Pokémon information, obtaining information about other things requires consuming a small amount of one's own mental energy. After reading this information in its entirety, Link finally understood why he had not traveled to the world of Pokémon. Emotional Pokémon was waiting for him here. It is not an exaggeration to say that this is my golden finger as a traveler. Based on this news, as long as you become a traveler, visit famous places, or participate in the original plot, you have a chance to get a Pokémon. Moreover, I have not undergone the orthodox method of opening a seminal hole, so it is natural for me to have the ability to think. Link speculates that he may be like Nyan in the original work, belonging to the innate ability to think. Link turned his head to the other side, and the first thing that caught his eye was a head of emerald green hair and crystal clear eyes like rubies. On the chest, there is an irregular red crystal, and on the lower body, there is a clean and light long skirt hem, which looks like an elegant aristocratic lady. It is the Xanadu, known as the Empress of Superpowers. Activate the illustrated ability. Name. Xanadu feature. Cannot be viewed, property. cannot be viewed, strength. Be skill. Mindfulness, cannot be viewed for others. The Shenandoah in front of me appeared along with the information on my reading ability, which is like a beginner's gift package if you really want to describe it. The complete information in just 2 short lines looked pitifully lonely, which also made Link ponder. The differentiation of strength levels in the guidebook is based on letters. Link, who has not yet seen other psychic beings, is not sure what level of strength B is, but he should not be far behind. The most crucial thing is that Pok É Mon may appear in the form of mind beasts. But each one is an independent existence. They don't need to expend their own mental energy during wartime, but rely on themselves. Just like a living Pok É Mon action relies on one's own physical strength. And Link's body is like a large Pok É Mon ball, only responsible for storage, and Pok É Mon can also come back to recover the energy consumed. This means that even if Link doesn't exercise and improve his mental capacity, he can still become a strong person through Pok É Mon. Others must charge into battle, while oneself only needs to be a good trainer and command the Pok É Mon operation. The only thing that needs to consume one's own mental energy is the ability of the picture book. Chapter 3. Characteristics and Mindfulness Ability. 3/6, Find. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shanai. Seeing his master staring blankly at him, Shanadu tilted his head and said in confusion. This is also another point where Link feels that Pok É Mon are not like minding beasts, but rather living individuals. Pok É Mon, born out of their ability to read, can speak. Although they use Pok É Mon language, Link can understand them. I'm fine. Speaking, Link got up and walked to the spacious round table, where there was a glass of water on the table and a green leaf on the surface of the water. Despite some speculations in his heart, Link still wanted to experiment with it firsthand. Currently, Link is going to use the water-seeing chi recognition method created by Heartstream to determine which category his mental ability belongs to. Standing in front of the round table, Link had a serious expression and placed his hands on either side of the water glass, one left and one right. He made a gesture that seemed to lift the water cup, but there was still a gap between his palm and the cup. Taking a deep breath, Link slowly gathered his breath in the palms of his hands, with pure white and slightly transparent breath covering them, forming layers of white film. Not long after awakening my mind ability, I haven't practiced it well either. This is already the most mind energy I can mobilize so far. Suddenly, a faint sweat appeared on Link's forehead. Seeing this, Shanadu quickly picked up a handkerchief to wipe away the sweat for Link, and a hint of heartache flashed in his magnificent eyes. Shanado's movements were like a symbol, and as Link released more and more of his mental energy, changes began to occur in the water glass. The originally transparent water is like a drop of pink, first pink, and then continuously deepening to form a purple liquid. Just as Link thought it was over, the leaves on the water began to curl up and gradually sink until they stopped in the center. At this point, the leaves have become spherical, and there is also a layer of crystals attached to the surface, with some patterns on it, seemingly a capital letter M. From Link's perspective, the spherical crystals in the water cup are like a fairy ball, and when paired with purple water, they look more like a master ball inside. After repeatedly confirming that the water cup had not changed, Link stopped the output of his breath and moved his hands away. Looking at the strange appearance in the water, Link's eyes flashed with clarity. Sure enough. Is it a trait series? The ability to read is divided into 6 major factions, forming a hexagonal shape as a whole, which are: strengthening the system, the phenomenon is an increase in water volume. Change system, the taste of water changes, and the changing taste is determined by different people. The manifestation system refers to the appearance of crystalline substances in water. Release the system, and the color of the water changes. The operation system causes the blades on the water to move. The trait system refers to phenomena that occur differently from the other 5 systems, all of which belong to the trait system. For example, in the original work, the abilities of Kula pickups are trait-based, which can be fully utilized by the other 5 types. There is also Kurolo's ability to steal other people's thoughts, and Parknolton's ability to read and remember belong to the trait family. Among the 6 lineages, the trait lineage is also the rarest and rarest. It is worth mentioning that abilities different from those in one's own department can also be used, but the further away one is from using abilities from their own department, the weaker they become. At first, Link thought he was making a mistake. After all, according to his own imagination, Pok É Mon Master should be a trait-based cognitive ability. The color change of water is a sign of the release system. But the subsequent series of changes made Link understand that he was indeed a flawless trait. If you really want to say that your trait system should include the ability characteristics of operation system, release system, and manifestation system. Operation refers to commanding Pok É Mon battles on one's own, while also possessing the analytical ability of a guidebook. The release system refers to the release of Pok É Mon both inside and outside of one's own body, while also allowing for external attacks within one's own body. Embodiment refers to each Pok É Mon being an independent entity that is manifested through the manifestation of mind energy. Even ordinary people can see it. So maybe that rumor is true. Link remembers seeing a saying somewhere before that anyone who is naturally capable of thinking is a trait system. Now that you have determined your category, the next step is to practice the 4 major practices. They are entanglement, extinction, refinement, and hair. Entanglement. Concentrating the mind, gazing into one's own inner self, calming the mind, and continuously releasing life energy from the body, known as mindfulness, around oneself is the fundamental skill of using mindfulness. Ju. Eliminate one's own aura, forcibly cut off one's own breath from being detected by the enemy. Lien. Use entanglement to concentrate the mind and unleash a powerful aura. If entanglement is accumulation, then lien is burst. Fa. Simply put, it refers to the ability to read, which develops one's own thinking ability after reaching a certain level of understanding. This is closely related to everyone's personality, hobbies, and other aspects, and a person's moral character can be roughly seen from their thinking ability. The above are referred to as the 4 great elements, collectively known as Nyen. Although Link thinks he can rely on the strength of Pok É Mon, unlike in battles, he still needs to master some of these skills in the 4 great rows. Link believes that currently the most important thing for himself is refining, followed by entangling. Because the application technique of refining coagulation can allow people to see the thoughts of other mental beings. As is well known, recitation cannot be seen with the naked eye, but it can be seen with the use of coagulation, which is not insignificant. After all, Link positions himself as a Pok É Mon trainer responsible for commanding. How can he command if he can't even see the attack from the opposite side? Link believes that entanglement is equally important for 2 reasons. One reason is that in order to cultivate cultivation well, entanglement is an unavoidable obstacle. The second is that entanglement can naturally lock in the body's fleeting thoughts, indirectly having the effect of prolonging life and improving physical fitness. Compared to normal minders, Link is already quite relaxed. One only needs to focus on entanglement and refinement, while others need to practice all 4 lines step by step. Practice is certainly important, but Link glanced at the soft bed. Let's start practicing again tomorrow. Chapter 4, If you can't take it out, you have to give it to me. 4/6. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The next day, Link slept until near noon and woke up. After finishing his meal, he slowly prepared to practice. Link is very clear about his path and has already worked hard enough on Blue Star in the past. On the premise of having complete self-protection ability, he is unwilling to spend more energy on hard work. Spending some energy practicing is already the most, not to mention imitating other full-time hunters and human protagonists, and finding a master named Bishiji to cultivate. Not to mention that I don't have that talent either, I'll just read novels like biscuits long-term hard work. If I really want to try, few people can persevere. Link also couldn't help but admire that the ability to read is indeed closely related to the human body. The Pok É Mon Master, who only needs to travel around to obtain Pokémon and enhance one's thinking ability, is really suitable for oneself. Before starting today's cultivation, Link needs to confirm one thing first. Not long after, a waiter handed the freshly baked newspaper to Link. At first glance, Link pays attention to the date in the upper right corner, which shows 1998. He remembered that Xiaojia and his team took the 287th Hunter exam in 1999, and the annual Hunter exam started on January 7. In my impression, Zaiso lost his qualification to continue the assessment due to injuring the examiner that year and could only take the exam the next year. That is to say, the timeline that I have traveled through is a period before the beginning of the plot, and there is still a lot of time to develop. This is the main purpose of Link's newspaper. Other information in the newspaper is secondary, and understanding the current timeline is important for future plans. Yesterday, as it was his first day in this world, coupled with the confidence of Xanadu, Link went directly to solve the money problem first. As for yesterday's victory, the natural reason was that Xanadu was helping. Under the superpower of Xanadu, it was effortless to see the points through a small dice. By completing the primary task, Link can also focus on starting his first cultivation. Change into a relatively spacious practice robe and stand in a naturally relaxed posture, gradually experiencing the movement of mental energy within the body. According to what Yuangu taught Xiaojia and his companions, this is the most suitable way to cultivate entanglement. The mental energy throughout the body is like blood, constantly circulating within the body. From the head to the right shoulder, to the hands and legs, then flow to the left side, and then the breath sinks, and the image of them swaying around comes to mind. These methods are all learned from anime and applied in the present, which is also a point that Link believes there is no need to learn from. As a full-time hunter enthusiast, I have memorized a lot of the knowledge inside myself, and the cultivation I have studied is naturally included in it. Although there are still many areas that are not clear enough, there is still no problem practicing basic skills well. For a long time, Link's originally tightly closed eyes suddenly opened, revealing a glimmer of light. The previously calm membrane of breath began to expand like a constantly inflated balloon, enveloping Link's entire body inside. Until the accumulation reached a certain level and reached the critical value, a flood of thoughts and energy surged rapidly from Link's body towards the surroundings. The high-intensity release of mental energy creates a strong wind pressure, making the practice robe rustle. Due to the burst of mindfulness centered around Link, his hair was also driven by the rising airflow of mindfulness, giving him a somewhat scion appearance. This is refining. Release the accumulated mental energy outwards. The most basic method for assessing the current capacity of mental energy for individuals with mental abilities is to practice it. The longer the practice is used, the higher the current capacity of the mind energy of the person with the ability to think. When practicing Lien, Link was also trying to control the movement of his mind energy, trying his best to flow it upwards. His goal was to cover his eyes with the mind energy. The technique of coagulation is not difficult to say, and one only needs to try more to achieve a rough idea. But it's not always easy to say. After all, condensation is the use of mental energy in the eyes, so it's important to grasp the power, otherwise it may also harm oneself. Another point is to control the consumption of mental energy well. If one is not proficient enough at the beginning, it is easy to exert too much force and cause excessive mental energy consumption. The duration of the battle between those who have the ability to concentrate is not short, so don't let your energy go out before you use it. Half a minute later, Nian Qi changed the surging waves and calmed down again, but it appeared even weaker than before. At this moment, Lin Ku was already sweating profusely, and his large practice robe was also soaked in sweat, revealing his slightly emaciated figure inside. Use all your strength to refine for half a minute. This is the result of Link's first cultivation. It seems to have a short duration, giving the impression of poor talent. But in fact, compared to the characters in the original work, Link's performance is already quite good. After a while of rest, Link recounted everything just now in his mind over and over again. He will be practicing in this room for the next few days until he receives his ID card. After all, I currently have nothing to do, except for eating and sleeping. I can only practice. Time rushed by, and in the blink of an eye, Link stayed in the hotel for 7 days. It was now the evening of the 7th day. According to the previous boss's promise, I should hand over my identification documents to myself no later than today. But until now, I haven't even seen a single strand of hair. Lin Keppen sat on the bed, his delicate face slightly tired, but his eyes were bright and lively, with a faint layer of white airflow attached to the surface of his eyes. He has already mastered the technique of coagulation. Oh, it's a frog at the bottom of the well. The pattern is still not big enough. Link's mouth slightly curved, his words full of mockery. In fact, he had already known these days that Pierce had no intention of helping him with anything. You don't need to mention whether you need a personal photo on your ID, but at the very least you should have a name on it, right? Otherwise, what else is it called identification? That day, Link never told him his name from beginning to end. The reason for waiting until the deadline is simply because I am too busy practicing to bother with him. After 7 days, Ning was mastered, and Link's patience was almost at its limit. He can't wait to travel to various places, see the unique features he has never seen before, and obtain his own Pok É Mon. He can take out this ID today, but if he can't, he has to give it to me too. Chapter 5. Says you want to crush me. May 6th. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this moment, it is late at night, and there are only a few moonlights leaning on the stone road in the empty and uninhabited street, providing some light. Link walked leisurely into the casino with his hands in his pockets, as if returning home without any defenses. The Xanadu, who is ready to come out of his body at any time, is the confidence he dares to come. Xanadu not only has strong combat power, but also top-notch life-saving ability. As long as you don't encounter enemies that are much stronger than Xanadu, it's easy to escape with just one hand's instantaneous movement. After looking around for a week, Link locked his gaze on the two people in the center of the hall. One of the two is tall, the other is short, the other is fat, and the other is thin. The short and chubby one is naturally an acquaintance named Pierce, who is now looking at himself with pride. As for the other tall and thin man, he had never seen a fresh face before. He seemed ordinary and had a prominent hooked nose, not like a good person. Under the use of condensation, Link clearly saw a smoke-like airflow flowing naturally above Pierce's head. Ordinary people who don't know how to read have no way to control it, and the life energy in their bodies will gradually dissipate from their heads. Pierce is not the point, he is just an ordinary person. More importantly, the tall and thin man next to him has no life energy escaping from his head, and his overall mental energy is attached to the surface of his body, which indicates that he is a mental ability person. Link found that the skin exposed by tall and thin men looked abnormal, like shattered glass with cracks on it. There is only one reason that Link could think of becoming like this. Baptism. The word baptism first appeared in the Sky Arena section, where when someone hits the 200th level, they will encounter a psychic. Some miscellaneous thoughts with lower abilities can only challenge ordinary people, and ordinary people will be attacked by these miscellaneous thoughts full of malicious intent when they reach the 200th level. Only a very small number of talented or lucky individuals can seize this opportunity to master mindfulness. And more people suffer from severe physical damage. Even if they don't die, they will become severely disabled. But those who survive may also use a little bit of mental energy. This is baptism. Ha ha ha, kid, your deadline is here. Pierce across from him couldn't help but laugh at Link for daring to come in so boldly. Under the laughter, the fat on the face kept shaking, and the already ugly face was even more nauseating. The tall and thin man beside him glanced at Pierce and didn't speak. I know you're definitely not easy, so I deliberately spent a lot of money asking this adult to come forward. You just wait to die obediently. This is what happened when you humiliated me that day. Speaking of this, Pierce's eyes flashed with a hint of flesh pain. It would take a lot of money to hire a capable person to handle things. Especially after all the money in the casino was given to Link, it was even worse. But Link must die. Not only to vent my anger, but also to maintain my reputation. In Pierce's eyes, everything that day was Lin Ku's humiliation, but Lin Ku didn't do anything to him either. He fell himself, and he knelt down to beg for mercy. Pa, after all, a little person is still a little person. I was so kind to you that day. You said you were so good at handling things obediently. Now my poor Xanadu has to deal with garbage again. Link applauded Pierce's face change while speaking in a regretful tone. This person should be placed on the high and low of the blue star, which is a national costume. You. Pierce across from him was still trying to say something, but was stopped by the tall and thin man beside him. That's all the nonsense, I don't have that much time to waste here, the tall and thin man said fiercely, pointing at Link across from him. Kid, don't think that if you use your energy to knock down a few ordinary people, you will be invincible in the world. I don't even need to get close to you to crush you. Of course, I will torture you for a while longer to meet the employer's requirements. Crush every inch of your bones and let you die in pain. Speaking of this tall and thin man, he cracked his mouth and showed a bloodthirsty smile, appearing even uglier. People who have failed baptism are prone to personality distortion. After speaking, waves of white mental energy overflowed from the cracks in the tall and thin man's body. The sparse thoughts gradually formed a huge palm above his head, surrounded by white airflow, and rushed straight towards Link. Until approaching Link's surroundings, a pink force struck away in the form of an arrow. The rapid arrows emitted bursts of piercing sound, easily shattering the white palm into the air. Discovering that Link was still standing unscathed, the tall and thin man's face couldn't hold, and he asked incredulously. How could you be okay? You should be crushed by me, right? Ha! Wait a minute. Why is your attack so weak? Upon hearing this, Link frowned and asked the tall and thin man in reverse. Link no longer wastes time and directly opens the picture book function to use against tall and thin men. Name. Ho's strength. D. Mindfulness. None. Link couldn't help but smile wryly on his forehead. He seemed to be too conservative. He had originally thought that Hose was a person who had been baptized and had healthy limbs, and perhaps his strength was not low. I didn't expect that. My strength is just AD, and I don't even know how to use condensation, and I haven't developed my thinking ability. That Nyen Chi palm is not even a Nyen ability, it's just concentrating Nyen Chi and rushing towards the enemy. Kid, you. Haas across from him was still thinking of saying something, but Link couldn't hold his tension anymore. Shut up. You scumbag, you're just a failed product after baptism, still talking nonsense. Suddenly, a white light flashed through, and Xanadu, who appeared, exuded his own mental energy with all his might. A huge momentum rushed towards the two people opposite him. In Link's eyes, Xanadu at this moment was like a scorching sun, emitting a dazzling light. The release of mindfulness stirred up the surrounding airflow, making the entire casino feel like it was in a storm, with chairs and tables overturned, and lightweight chips fluttering in the sky. Hose was forced to kneel on the ground by this massive momentum, while Pierce on the other side was even more unbearable, lying on the ground like a fat pig waiting to be slaughtered. How? How could it be? How could you have such powerful strength? Hose's face was filled with a look of fear, and under immense pressure, his facial features began to contort as he gritted his teeth and spoke. In the two major stages of power gap, Xanadu only turned his thoughts into pressure, making Hose unable to even lift his head. Yo, why did you kneel down? It's not like you asked me to take every inch of my bones. Pinch it. Crush it. Is it? Chapter 6. Forgive you, I didn't say I wouldn't kill you. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. As Link uttered each word, Hose felt even more pain, and now he couldn't have looked as confident as before. More like a kneeling lamb begging for mercy. Before the plea for mercy could be spoken, a deep voice rang out. It's so boring, I don't even have the ability to resist, Chanadu, Nyenli. Hose felt a bad premonition in his heart, as his body involuntarily sensed death. Under pressure, he could not move a single penny. He could only accept the arrival of death. With two black eyes, Hose's consciousness completely disappeared into the darkness. After a moment, Shanadu put away his pressure, while Hose had already fallen to the ground. His proud and pitiful mind was weak, unable to resist even a single attack. In the end, he died in a way he believed he wouldn't. Being struck by his mental power and causing his brain to die, completely losing its breath. As Hose died, his thoughts dissipated and his body began to scatter, like the clown Bucky who had eaten the split fruit. It turned out that the aftermath of Hose's baptism was not just a broken skin, but a deeper injury. The awakened mind forms a certain balance with the broken body. That pitiful amount of mental energy was like glue sticking his body together, and now that his thoughts were scattered, his body naturally split into pieces. It's funny that even though he kept saying he wanted to crush Link, in the end, he ended up crushing himself. Another thing that has changed is Shinado's experience bar. Killing a D.level minder brings her weak experience points. It is indeed pitiful, compared to long progress bars, this is a drop in the bucket. So. Next is you. Link averted his gaze from a clump of minced meat and looked faintly at Pierce, who was trembling beside him. At this moment, Pierce had already been frightened and dumbfounded, trembling like a sieve of bran, and the remaining light dared not look to the side. He swore that this was the most terrifying scene he had ever seen since his birth, even the last time he saw a few guards die in an instant could not compare to this. As the leader of the gang, he has seen many deaths before, but the bloodiest scene he has ever seen is a headshot. Have you ever seen a living person turn into countless pieces? Pierce, who didn't know how to recite, kept thinking that Hose's tragedy was caused by Link, and even left an impression in his heart that Link was a zombie maniac. Ding dong. Link kicked the floor heavily twice, gesturing for Pierce to lift his head. Ah. Don't kill me. Pierce slowly lifted the pig's head, with a look of panic and fear in his eyes. In his eyes, Link was like a heart-wrenching black hole, constantly tugging at himself, about to drag himself into bottomless darkness. Please. Please, sir, please let me go. The hoarse voice revealed a clear and audible despair. He didn't think Link would let go of him. But he didn't want to become like Haas, one piece at a time. Where is my identification? Link said coldly without answering his request. Pierce's pupils suddenly contracted, and his body involuntarily shook again. Pierce is well aware of what he has done in the past few days. Apart from relying on connections to find Minders to help him find a place, he has not done anything else. He had long forgotten about his identity documents, and in his opinion, with the help of a master he had paid a lot of money to hire, the matter should have been easily grasped. This proves. Link didn't feel surprised about this either. He would be surprised if he could pull out his identification now. I'll only give you 1 hour, and if I don't receive it in an hour, he'll be your end. Link wrapped his arms around his chest and spoke slowly. Link did not say who he was, but both of them were very clear in their hearts about who they were referring to. The previous arrogant person has become everywhere. 1 hour later, Link held a brand new identification document with information such as name, gender, and birth address. The name and gender need not be mentioned, while the birth address is directly located in this town. The handsome face showed a kind smile, and Link said to Pierce, who was still kneeling in front. You see, isn't it possible to make it in time? Indeed, efficiency is always forced. What you're saying, sir. Even though he was on the verge of collapse both mentally and physically, Pierce still had to kneel and apologize with a smile. "Sir, do you think I can spare my life? You just want all my belongings." Pierce's brain is blank now, he doesn't think about anything else, he just wants to live. He hates himself immensely these past few days. What's wrong with being humiliated? Alright now, originally it was just a waste of money in disaster relief, but now it's all about risking one's life. "Forgive you." Alright, Link put his identification card in his pocket, lazily stretched out, and walked towards the door. Pierce stared blankly as Link walked out step by step, as if he had been hit by a huge pie falling from the sky. His surprise was mixed in all directions. But this joy didn't last long before it disappeared at the moment Link officially stepped out of the door. Pierce's fat and heavy body also fell to the ground, still wearing the smile from before death on his face. "If it weren't for the dripping blood, I'm afraid others would only think he's asleep. Forgive you, I didn't say I wouldn't kill you. In the next life, let's have some my power. Not everyone can be easily provoked." On a pitch-black and peaceful night, the moon was covered by black clouds, and Link slowly walked into this ink-like night, leaving only a sigh. Chapter 7. Constraints and Oaths, 1/4, Seeking Data. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hallimu City. It is located in the central part of the Yulubian continent and also within the territory of the United States of Suherda. Hallimu City, as an ordinary and unremarkable city, still receives many people entering and leaving every day. That's because the famous Hallimu Ruins are here. Even the city of Harem was built using the reputation of the Harem Ruins. Is this the ruins of Hallimu, known as the Dead End? Indeed, it deserves its reputation. Link stands in front of the French window on the top floor of the hotel, which is the best place in the hotel. Looking out from the French window, you can directly see the huge hairy wood relics outside the city. In the eyes of ordinary people, the Harem Ruins are just a slightly larger place compared to ordinary ruins, with no abnormalities. Under Link's gaze, the central part of the Hallimu Ruins in the distance gathers an extremely massive sense of death. Just looking at it, one can feel the sense of stillness rushing towards them, as if trying to devour every person who tries to get close to it. It's like a continuous dark cloud, completely enveloping the center of the Hallimu Ruins inside, making it impossible for outsiders to enter or see clearly. The relics of Hallimu can be roughly divided into two parts, and when viewed from above, they are overall circular. Based on the judgment of whether it contains the idea of death, V5 sets the outer city without the idea of death as a tourist attraction that can be accessed by anyone. The inner city full of deathly thoughts is not open to ordinary people, and only some people with psychic abilities can enter and exit. Among them, there are roughly two types of mind hunters. Relic hunters and treasure hunters, but it is said that no one has ever been able to reach the depths. Because those who are in the state of deathly mindfulness need to consume a considerable amount of mindfulness every minute and second, and the deeper they go, the higher the concentration of deathly mindfulness. In fact, the most abundant thing on this continent is relics. As a full-time hunter world with a dark continent worldview, there are numerous relics distributed on several continents. And the vast majority of them have not been thoroughly explored. It is because of the existence of the idea of death. The Hallimu Ruins are also one of the most dangerous among them, because of their much stronger sense of death than other ruins, so they are given the title of Dead Land. Link felt the progress bar symbolizing the birth of Pok É Mon slowly moving forward in his mind and murmured to himself, I didn't expect the first relic to surprise me. Since the day of killing Pierce and Hose and obtaining identification documents, Link has embarked on his journey of travel. Considering the explanation in the ability to read, not every place will conceive Pok É Mon, and participating in the original plot can increase the probability of conception. Link decided to arrange the locations described extensively in the original works, such as Sky Arena and Ukexen City, later. Even if these places are not listed as targets for now, there are still many famous places to visit on these 6 continents. For example, the current dead zone of Harem, the capital of pleasure, of Glamvisland, and so on. After truly arriving in this world, Link realized that the place where the plot appears is far from just the tip of the iceberg. The reason why he came to this Hallimu Ruins first was also by chance. It was very close to the town where he came, so Link came here first to try his luck. To his surprise, this first relic gave birth to Pok É Mon, and Link touched his chin in contemplation. I don't know if the probability of pregnancy is too high or if I'm lucky. Looking at the ruins of Hallimu in the distance, Link also had a desire to explore the truth in his heart. Even if he couldn't go deep, it would be good to see it outside. Link plans to stroll around the city first, wait quietly for the progress bar to fill, and then welcome his second Pok É Mon. I don't know which Pok É Mon it might be. Link has not been completely idle these days. After analyzing his mental ability over and over again, a thought came to his mind. In fact, at the beginning, he was surprised by the lack of information about Xanadu in the guidebook. Finally, he came up with a method that could not only supplement the information in the guidebook, but also enhance the strength of Pok É Mon. And this requires the use of a large amount of Pok É Mon knowledge stored in one's own brain. Constraints and oaths. Simply put, it means setting rules, swearing in your heart, and sticking to them. The more difficult the rules are, the stronger the power they unleash. If we compare our usual mental ability to addition, then our ability to follow the rules is multiplication, and our strength will increase exponentially. Kula Pickup is a powerful ability that comes from the hatred towards the Phantom Brigade in my heart, which restricts the use of my mind ability to the Phantom Brigade during the cultivation of my mind ability. Just practicing for a short time can catch up with the members of the brigade who have been practicing for many years. Constraints and vows are very fair, and it is also necessary to abide by the rules of limitations when enjoying the benefits they bring. If you break the oath, you may lose your ability to recite and even lose your life due to backlash. What Link needs to do is make constraints and vows. This is a decision made by Link after careful consideration. After arriving in this world, he felt that his biggest advantage was his ability to recite Pok É Mon Master. Secondly, there are precious memories on the blue star. The memory here refers not only to the profits of the original plot, but also to a full understanding of Pok É Mon. So set the rules here. Each Pok É Mon can have 1 minute of time, and within the specified time, one should learn about the features and attributes of the Pok É Mon. Even recount the race values, skills that can be mastered, and so on. Taking 50% as the average value, if the knowledge told exceeds 50%, Pok É Mon's strength will increase, with a maximum increase of 1 major stage. If the knowledge is less than 50%, the strength of Pok É Mon will decrease, with a maximum decrease of 1 major stage. Link wants to turn the knowledge in his mind into strength. Firstly, even if the promise fails, he will not suffer any losses, at best he will be disappointed. But if successful, the gains it brings are not something that can be explained in just 1 or 2 sentences. If it is really successful, Xanadu can go from the current B. level to A. level. In a faint way, Link noticed a strange feeling lingering in his heart. Balancing gains and losses, constraint and oath, established. Chapter 8. Hallimu Ruins, 2 of 4, Seeking Data. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With a thumping heart, Link immediately began to use restraint and vows against Xanadu. Name. Xanadu, attribute superpower, fairy type, feature replication, synchronization in an instant, a minute flew by, and Link's machine gun-like mouth speed also stopped. At the same time, Xanadu, who was usually standing by, suddenly had a sudden surge of thoughts on his body. Then burst out a powerful momentum several times stronger. The majestic pink breath quickly filled the entire room. Like a pink flash shining into the room, it turned into a pink ocean. For a moment, all the tables, chairs, and other items in the room floated together, and the bright pink breath seemed like a big hand dragging them down. Shinato's emerald green hair couldn't help but flutter, and as soon as she turned around, she transformed from a graceful and polite young lady to a calm and confident queen. Activate the illustrated ability. Name. Shinato features. Copying attribute. Superpower, fairy strength. Skills. Mindfulness, mental impact, hypnosis, magic shine, ha 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 ha, it's done. Looking at Shinato's current strength far surpassing before, Link could no longer suppress his inner joy. The most crucial thing is that this is just my first Pokémon. There will be a second and third one in the future. B. Level will become A. Level, A. Level will become S. Level. As a Pokémon hardcore player, Link can pat his chest to ensure that most of the powerful Pokémon have very complete knowledge. As for the remaining relatively mediocre Pokémon, there is no need to worry about their strength regressing due to constraints and promises. After all, their own strength is not high. And according to Shinato's account, now she can not only carry multiple people to move instantly. You can also perform multiple long-distance teleportations continuously, and your life-saving ability will skyrocket again. At this moment, Link was laughing so hard that his face was about to bloom. He didn't expect such a big gain from one attempt. On the streets of Harlem City. The overall style of Hallimu City tends to be consistent, with a very orthodox Western-style appearance, roughly similar to Gothic architecture. The roads are mostly lined with bricks and stones, which look neat and beautiful, and are simply a blessing for those with OCD. The buildings on both sides of the road can be said to be of the villa type, mostly 2 or 3 stories high, composed of stone skeleton vouchers and flying buttresses, which look like a church at first glance. The overall color tone is grayish-white, which gives an impression of cleanliness and tidiness at first glance. Lin Ku, who had nothing to do, strolled around the city and unconsciously compared it with the style on the Blue Star while enjoying the city scenery. The shops and vendors on the street sell mostly around the ruins of Harem. Most vendors sell antiques dug out from the ruins, but as time goes by, things in the outer city become less and less common, making it difficult for most people to enter the inner city. This leads to none of the so-called antiques being true yet. Walking on the brick road, Link suddenly stopped in place and frowned. Ha! Just now, the progress bar that gave birth to Pokémon in my mind suddenly came to a halt. Previously, progress was slow, but there was still progress. Now, it has come to a complete halt, as if encountering some kind of transparent diaphragm. Link squinted his eyes and instinctively looked towards the direction of the Harlem ruins. The next second, Link disappeared in place and reappeared in an empty space on the outskirts of the Harlem ruins. The stagnant progress bar once again unfolds its steps forward like a shot in chicken blood. Is it really like this? Looking at the wall covered in reliefs next to him, Link thought to himself. The situation is already easy to see. There is an upper limit to the progress bar within the city. Once the limit line is reached, it is necessary to approach the center position of the area, and then the progress bar will continue to move forward. For this Pokémon breeding site, the central location is the Harlem ruins. I just don't know if every Pokémon pregnancy has to move towards the center position. If you're serious, this is my first time experiencing the nurturing of Pokémon, and Xanadu appeared together when I awakened my psychic abilities. What happened next seemed to deliberately confirm Link's conjecture, and soon the progress bar came to a halt again. Now it happened to be at 50% of the progress. Upon seeing this, Link did not hesitate and walked straight towards the ruins of Hallimu, with the progress bar moving forward again. Link didn't care either. Quan Dang had come to visit the ruins of Hallimu. Anyway, he had the same plan in mind, but it was just a little earlier. The interior of the ruins is intricate and complex, giving the first impression of a maze, with pale yellow walls and a few statues visible at a glance. Most of the sites are relatively intact, but there are still some walls and statues that have been damaged and collapsed on the ground without anyone noticing. The reliefs on the walls are lifelike, and the details are even more impressive, showing the superb skills of the sculptors. It is said that this Hallimu Ruins were a palace ruins of a fallen country a long time ago, but it was only through unknown events that they became like this. This is also what countless archaeologists and relic hunters want to know. Not much information can be obtained from the relief, and it can only be roughly seen that this is a country full of romantic colors. People have rich emotional colors, and their average artistic level is relatively high. Career development such as painting and carving is extremely prosperous. Moreover, it is rumored that the royal family of this country holds extremely powerful power, and every king is the strongest. At that time, the mainland was far from as stable as it is now, and the people needed the protection of the royal family. Surprisingly, despite the constant danger, the kingdom has never encountered any crisis, and the people attribute it to the king's protection. Most of the statues here are also carved according to their appearances to praise previous kings. Due to years of disrepair, these reliefs and statues were not officially removed, but continued to remain in their original places, while imposing strict laws to protect these cultural relics. If you pick up some gold bottles or jewelry inside, it's okay. But if you pay attention to these reliefs and statues, then wait for the official people to come and find you. As Link leisurely advanced deeper, the progress bar also advanced towards 100%. Until, sigh. We still have to face the idea of death. Link looked at the deathly thought within reach. Deathly thought was not a fixed thing, like black mist blown by the wind, provoking in front of him with open teeth and claws. The dancing black smoke was like countless tentacles, eager to drag people in and devour them. Until the boundary between the outer and inner cities, the progress bar stopped at 70% and refused to move at all. So. It's already 70%, it's a bit regrettable to just give up. What's the way to deal with the obsession? Chapter 9. Wherever you go, your dead thoughts fade away. 3/4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Carefully paying attention to the ink-like strong obsession with death, Link recalled the information about the obsession with death. Death thoughts, also known as post-death thoughts. It is usually formed when a person dies with a strong will, such as wanting revenge, unwilling to die like this. The originally ordinary mental energy will become aggressive and aggressive like blackening. This setting sounds a bit like the zombie setting in a horror movie. If a person still hasn't exhaled a mouthful of resentment after death, it is easy for them to transform into zombies. The use of deathly thoughts can far exceed that of zombies. The scene in the plot where Saiso and Kuroro duel in the Sky Arena is the most frequently depicted depiction of the concept of death. The anime has not been serialized here yet, it only appears in the manga. Kuroro turned the surrounding audience into a human bomb during the game, and although Saiso was not completely killed, the continuous explosions caused a lack of oxygen. So in the end, Saiso died from lack of oxygen. After Kuroro thought that Saiso had died, and even the body was carried down by the staff, a miraculous thing happened. A strong sense of death rushed to Saiso's heart for cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and in the end, Saiso was truly saved. Originally, Saiso left a portion of his thoughts in the heart before his death, and when he was on the brink of death, he used a strong will to drive his thoughts for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It is said that this was Saiso's attempt, and he himself was not entirely confident that he could save himself. At that time, when I saw this place, I couldn't help but marvel at the ingenuity of the old thief Fu Jian, who could have been saved so hard. In other words, mindfulness can also be understood as a negative ability, as opposed to ordinary mindfulness. Thinking of the sudden appearance of Link's spiritual light, he immediately asked Xanadu to stand beside him and use his skills against the death mines in front of him. This skill can only be learned in the game through a move learner. But all the skills that Pok É Mon can master nurtured from their mental abilities will directly appear in the skill box and can be used directly. That is to say, any move that Pok É Mon can learn can be used. Mysterious Guardian. A group of translucent spheres completely enveloped Xanadu, as if it were trapped by a huge foam. At the same time, the deathly thought in front of Shinado seemed to encounter a natural enemy, and quickly began to churn backwards, eagerly moving away from Shinado. The idea of death in the distance has not been greatly affected. Link stared at the deathly thought that seemed to have lost a battle and hastily retreated, his heart clear. The role of mysterious guardians in the world of Pok É Mon is to avoid being affected by abnormal states. From this perspective, mindlessness can also be considered as a type of abnormal state in a certain sense. So it seems like I can still make a guest appearance as a chant eliminator. No, it should be half a mindfulness teacher. The deathly mind can be removed after the deathly mind is applied to a person, while the mysterious guardian is to prevent the deathly mind from being applied to a person. One is treatment, and the other is prevention. After being operated by the mind eliminator, the mind should disappear directly, while the mysterious guardian drives away the dead mind, as can be seen from the fact that the dead mind did not disappear but retreated just now. Link also realized the importance of mysterious guardianship. Deathly thoughts belong to abnormal states. What if someone else uses the ability to attach abnormal states to him? Will this be recognized as an abnormal state and have an effect? Although Link has not tried it yet, his intuition tells him that it should be useful. Wait, if the mysterious guardian can prevent death thoughts, then isn't the healing bell able to eliminate the thought of death? Shinado can also learn healing ringtones. Link can directly open the skill panel to view healing ringtone. It can relieve the abnormal state of the entire team, judged by oneself, including but not limited to negative effects such as death thoughts and curses. Now the reputation of the recitation master cannot escape. A mysterious guardian for prevention, a healing ringtone for removal, dual protection. In this way, no one can question whether they are a mind dispeller. If Link remembers correctly, in the world of full-time hunters, the number of capable individuals is much smaller compared to ordinary people. But ultimately, there is still a part. The only truly rare species is the deity. Throughout the anime and manga, there are only 3 mentioned mind teasers. One is a black guy who appears on the Greed Island to mourn for Kirolo. One is a rabbit-shaped ant called Sheena in Chimeric Ants. The last one who didn't show up was an old lady who worked as a nun in the Hunter Association. Except for rare talents like Master Nyen, they can be enjoyed anywhere. To give it a try, Link also had Shinado use a healing ringtone against the deathly thought. The beautiful singing becomes tangible through recitation, becoming notes on the staff that float forward and down. When a dead thought encounters a note, it is like snow touching a warm sun, melting step by step until it is completely gone. That place seemed like there had never been a dead thought before, and a gap suddenly appeared. After a while, the dead thought from behind came forward to fill the gap. Shinai. Shinai felt the depletion of her inner energy and spoke softly to Lin Kara next to her. Will healing ringtones consume more than mysterious guardians, but that's also normal. After confirming that both were effective, Link asked Shinado to put a mysterious guard on himself, ignoring the danger ahead sign on the side, and the two walked forward together. As expected, Link took a step forward and the obsession took a step back. Link felt like a Tang monk circled in a circle in Journey to the West, feeling extremely secure. Not to mention that this circle will still move with itself. Link and Shinado walked step by step towards the depths of Hallimu. Wherever you go, your dead thoughts fade away. Chapter 10. That. I know a little bit, April 4th, Seek. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The terminus of the inner city of the Hallimu Ruins. There is a pitch-black gate here that seems to be surrounded by a strong sense of death, made up of ink. The gate stands proudly, blocking people and horses from all directions. If the thoughts of death outside are scattered like black mist, then the door is a thick block of ink. It has become so rich that it solidifies. In front of the gate, there was a change from the previous silence and a lively atmosphere. So, will we just leave directly like this? The young Master Pete, who was wearing broad sunglasses with a split head, spoke up, with a hint of gloom flashing in his eyes. "What else can we do? You won't be able to get rid of it." The woman in leather clothes stared fiercely at the door, and her gritting tone could tell the speaker's unwillingness. "That. I know a little bit." "What?" 6 people turned their heads together and looked back. The place that should have been surrounded by deathly thoughts is now shaking violently like boiling water. A few seconds later, a handsome and relatively young man walked out with a smile. It feels like a semi-transparent plastic bag is wrapped around the body, isolating the thoughts of death from the outside. There is also a humanoid Nyen beast behind, with a noble temperament. The ones who came were Link and Xanadu. As Link gradually delved deeper, he realized that the end of this inner city was not the true end. This can be seen from the progress bar stopping at 80%. The true end must be behind this gate. A few people also saw Xanadu next to Link, and all the psychics naturally recognized that he was a psychic beast. The 6 people present all focused their attention on Link's surroundings without any hesitation. Except for the teacher. "Brother, are you the teacher of eliminating thoughts?" The woman in leather clothes looked at Link's expression and believed for half a minute, but still couldn't help but ask. Besides being unable to take on the responsibility of the teacher, it's just a matter of having some means to keep the dead mind out and not be disturbed. Link's words lifted the spirits of several people who had suffered from the torment of death, and they all rushed forward, as if waiting for the dawn of victory. With some explanation, Link finally gained a thorough understanding of the entire story. Glasses Man, Leather-Clad Woman, and Hip-Hop Man are the 3 siblings. They met Pete and his 2 bodyguards who also thought of the depths in the outer city of the ruins. Considering the potential dangers that may arise internally, both sides formed a temporary team to explore together. But the biggest problem with this temporary team is that there is no anti-minder, and they have been relying on constantly consuming their own mindfulness and resisting it hard all the way. That is to say, this road is not too long, otherwise a few people wouldn't be able to walk here. Despite this, several people are almost consuming more than half of their energy. Link looked up and down at the gate, and now he fully understood why the legend had not yet reached its end. Emotions are blocked outside by this door, emitting a mysterious and dark sense of death. The thought of death on this door is more than 10 times stronger than the thought of death that permeates the air outside. If there are still a few people outside who can rely on hard thinking to resist, there is really no way for this sect. Just a slight touch may make people forget it. While listening to their explanation, Link was not idle and used his picture book skills to explore all the people present. The result reassured him that most of the strength inside was C. level, with only the center point Pete being B. level and the Hip-Hop Man being B. level. Such strength does not pose any threat to him or Xanadu. It was the 3 siblings who had some special abilities, which surprised him a bit, but their overall strength was still not impressive enough. As they looked at Link, Link was also observing the 6 of them. Pete and 2 bodyguards are both wearing standard black suits. Perhaps it was the impression left by Pierce, but now Link instinctively feels like a gangster when he sees someone dressed like this. Both bodyguards have standard sizes and look very ordinary. Pete had a split head and a pair of eyes hidden under wide sunglasses, making it difficult to see the expression underneath. However, Link doesn't need to guess, he knows that this person is likely to have problems, either with his eyes or with the person. The former is to cover up eye diseases, while the latter is to conceal eye contact. 2 of the bodyguards each carried a large leather backpack, while Pete was empty-handed and free. Among the 3 siblings, the Glasses Man is the eldest, the Leather-Clad Woman is the second, and the Hip-Hop Man is the youngest third. The man with eyes is thin and has a pair of squinting eyes, wearing a pair of golden eyes. Wearing a regular white-inch shirt and leather shoes with layers of thin gray. If he were thrown into the crowd, he would be an extremely ordinary office worker, except for his slightly sharp gaze. The woman in leather clothes is about 1.7 meters tall, with a royal sister face and an inexplicable heroic aura between her eyebrows. Wearing a black leather jacket and holding a slender whip with some spikes on it, she looks like a queen. This should not have been done for role-playing, as Link's gaze revealed that the whip was completely composed of mindfulness. It is obvious that this is a product of the manifestation of mindfulness. The final hip-hop male image is the most eye-catching, with a darker skin color and a pair of thick eyebrows. Wearing a red hip-hop style dance uniform, with a large mountaineering bag on his back. What caught Link's attention the most was the thick knuckles of his hands, and the thick calluses also indicated his uniqueness. Brother, as long as you can help us avoid being disturbed by our obsession, I promise here that you will share 40% of all the gains when the time comes. How about that? Pete took the lead in speaking, full of sincerity both inside and outside, but Link always felt that this person had ill intentions. With a curl of his mouth, Lin Kuei's narrowed eyes revealed a playful expression. If only a few people were not strong enough, I would play with them myself. Okay, Link nodded and walked towards the front door.